on assignment in Budapest to intercept a courier working for a person of interest codenamed Cobalt. IMF agent Trevor Hanaway is killed by an assassin named Moreau. Hanaway's team leader, Jane Carter, and newly promoted field agent Benji Dunn extract Ethan Hunt from a Moscow prison. Ethan insists on extracting his source Bogdan, and they are rescued from the prison together. Ethan knew that as his informer Bogdan would be tortured and killed, so he rescued him and granted him his freedom. Jane tells Hunt that Hanaway was killed while intercepting a routine courier drop. The courier was carrying Russian nuclear launch codes, and these were now in the hands of an assassin. But before being killed by Moreau, Hanaway was also attacked by other parties after the same codes. Hunt knows that IMF has been looking for an extremist, codenamed Cobalt. Cobalt is known to have threatened a detonation of a nuclear device, however he can end with the theft of the launch codes. His identity is of crucial importance. Moreau has worked with him before. Cobalt was a nuclear strategist for Russian intelligence. Hunt is recruited to lead Carter and Dunn to infiltrate the secret Moscow Kremlin archives and locate files identifying Cobalt. Cobalt will do anything to destroy any records of his identity. Cobalt is already on his way to the Kremlin, which gives Ethan 5 hours to complete his mission. Halfway through the mission, Ethan manages to bypass all security inside the Kremlin and enter the archives room, but he finds the records room empty. Then, someone broadcasts across the IMF frequency, alerting the Russians to Hunt's team. Ethan orders an abort, and while exiting the Kremlin, he sees another person coming out with a large briefcase in his hands. Although Hunt, Dunn, and Carter escape, a bomb destroys the Kremlin. Ethan is caught up in the blast and wakes up in a Russian hospital. Russian agent Sidorov accuses Hunt of masterminding the attack, who is now again under Russian arrest. Hunt manages to escape from the hospital and calls in an immediate rescue for himself. The IMF extracts Hunt from Moscow. The Russians have called the attack an undeclared act of war, and the US president activates Ghost Protocol, a black operation contingency that disavows the entire IMF. Hunt and team are to take the blame for the attack but will be allowed to escape from government custody so that they may operate to track down Cobalt. Before Hunt can escape, the IMF's secretary, Tom Wilkinson, is killed by Russian security forces led by Sidorov, leaving Hunt and intelligence analyst William Brandt, Jeremy Renner, to find their own way out. Based on Ethan's description, Brandt identifies Cobalt as Kurt Hendricks, a Swedish-born Russian nuclear strategist who believes the weak must die for the strong to survive, and so plans to start a nuclear war to start the next stage of human evolution. Hendricks bombed the Kremlin and acquired a Russian nuclear launch control device, and now needs its codes from the Budapest courier, Moreau, in order to launch a nuclear missile at America. The team gather in one of the supplementary covert IMF sites that the secretary overlooked and plans their next move. The exchange between Moreau and Hendricks's right-hand man, Wiestrom, is due to take place at the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Ethan has to hack the server room by climbing outside of the Burj Khalifa using magnetic gloves. There, Hunt's team members separately convince Moreau and Wiestrom that they have made the exchange with one another, when actually they never meet each other and only meet members of the IMF team pretending to be Wiestrom and Moreau. Their mask machine failed, so they went without masks hoping that Wiestrom and Moreau never met each other. The objective was to let Wiestrom believe that he has the authentic codes, so that he can lead them to Hendricks. For this, the real codes had to be given to Wiestrom as he was checking them live. However, Moreau identifies Brandt as an agent, while Hunt chases Wiestrom only to realize Wiestrom is actually Hendricks in disguise. As Hendricks escapes with the codes, Carter detains Moreau. Moreau attempts to kill the inexperienced Dunn, and Carter throws her out a window to her death. Brandt accuses Carter of compromising the mission for revenge against Moreau. Sidorov attempts but fails to apprehend Ethan, who flees the Burj Khalifa and pursues Wiestrom. As Ethan and Wiestrom run into a sandstorm, Wiestrom reveals himself to be a masked Hendricks and escapes. Meanwhile, Jane and Benji confront Brandt over the advanced fighting skills that he displayed in the hotel. Brandt admits he resigned as a field agent after failing to protect Julia Meade, Ethan's wife, from a hit. Bogdan takes Ethan to the Fog, an arms dealer, and learns that Hendricks is planning to launch missiles using an old Soviet military satellite. The satellite is owned by an Indian media tycoon, Burj Khalifa. The fox sells the same information to Sidorov. In Mumbai, Jane seduces Nath and then overpowers him to get the satellite's override code. The team pursues Hendricks and Wiestrom to one of Nath's broadcast stations to stop him from sending the codes via the satellite. Hendricks sends launch orders to a Russian nuclear submarine to fire a missile at San Francisco, while Wiestrom sabotages the station system to prevent IMF interference. Benji, Brandt, and Jane attempt to repair the station while Ethan pursues Hendricks. Cornered by Ethan, Hendricks jumps to his death to place the launch device out of reach. After Benji kills Wiestrom, Jane reconnects the system, and Ethan retrieves the launch device to disable the missile moments before detonation. Sidorov arrives and realizes that the IMF was innocent of the Kremlin bombing. In Seattle, Ethan assembles his team for another mission given by Luther Stickle. Brandt confesses to Ethan his failure to protect Julia, but Ethan reveals that she is alive and her death was staged to give her a new identity safely away from him and to let him infiltrate the prison to find Bogdan. A relieved Brandt accepts his mission. Julia arrives and smiles at Ethan from afar before he slips away and receives an IMF briefing.